Can everyone see the screen and the slides? Perfect. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for coming to listen to my presentation. It's been 4 years in the making, so I'm really happy that we are all finally to this point. So thank you for coming. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll do an introduction, talk about my research and how it's grounded from my work with Transpulse Canada. I'll present some of the data that came out of that research, and I'll talk about the methodologies, some of my approaches and the frameworks that I've been using throughout my project, and show you the timeline with everything that happened, just showing you the process. And I'll do more of a reflection for my results. The 4 major themes really just for just based on the paper, which the committee members have all read. But I do want to focus my presentation more so on the stories, because that is what my research was the heart of my research, and I really want to center that here as well. So I'll focus, and then I'll close off with the knowledge mobilization, which is also part of everything that I do with my research here today. So yeah, my project is called Moving Through the System, a qualitative study, but I like to call it a collection of digital stories. This is just really because my research was meant to be just for focusing on the digital stories, but with the institution not really recognizing that, and I just needed to be able to create space in a different way. I still had to do the paper, and that was more focused on doing the thematic analysis and the typical like qualitative research methods. So as always, like I'm still trying to navigate the system, but also be honoring my work in the community. So yeah. And so my medical transition started at the same time that I stepped into my role as a graduate student in family relations and human development program in the fall of 2018. And when I did my undergrad at in health sciences at Wilfrid Laurier University, I started to really challenge my own perceptions and knowledge that I got from there, mainly because I realized that I was conditioned to see the world in a very particular way, and acknowledging that the Western science and medical curricula are deeply rooted in settler colonialism, white supremacy, and cis heteronormativity pedagogies. So my framework is to really acknowledge and just to kind of challenge that a little bit to as part of my ongoing unlearning and relearning process. And yeah, for most of my life, I really never gave much thought to how gender roles and cisnormativity dictate how people behaved and how people see themselves. So breaking out of that binary construct gave me the space I needed to exist and to rewrite how I wanted to move through the world. And I'm just so deeply honored that I could also translate that into my work. And as an openly and visibly queer, transmasculine, and non-binary person of color, I do have my own lived experiences and the stories that shaped my understanding of how gender and race are intrinsically connected. And in many ways, I believe that this thesis reflects both my personal and my professional development over the past 4 years. And this presentation is to highlight some of the work that I have done both inside and outside of the academia. So I wanted to just center off with this quote by Laverne Cox. She said that it is revolutionary for any trans person to choose to be seen and visible in a world that tells us we should not exist. And even though within the past 5-6 years, there is an increase of visibility and representation in the media. We still need to also acknowledge that it is a gradual change within the systems that we're operating in. And I really want to just highlight that, because to me, I want to really come back to the stories and the experiences that folks are living through on a daily basis, which doesn't really get talked about or really represented in the in research. So I mentioned in 2019, I got involved with Transpulse Canada, working as one of the peer research associate for Southwestern Ontario. And I got to meet one of my greatest role model, Dr. Greta Bauer, who have been sort of the head hunter for creating this change within the gender and diversity and in research, particularly. When I was in my health sciences degree, I remember seeing her work through the Transpulse project, which was an Ontario-wide research that was done, and that was the only research on trans people in Ontario. And so 10 years later, when I got started in this project, that was the first time that we had a national-wide study on trans and non-binary people. And the survey actually covers a lot of other experiences, but just to kind of centering what my research also focused on is on racialized trans and non-binary experiences in the healthcare system. So that's what I am going to be touching on today. So out of the survey, 86% of these respondents were white and 14% were racialized. And this is just the quick glance at like how the representation tend to be within literature. Other studies that I've read tend to have lower than 14 actually. So that's kind of why I really want to, that's when I realized that my work, I needed to really center our stories. And even though from the survey, we found that the both racialized and non-racialized participants have similar access to healthcare, racialized respondents were more frequently unsure or or not planning to seek gender affirming medical care at all. And through my research, I did find that for many of us, the healthcare system just wasn't a space for us to exist. And there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. And there's more reports that are coming out. So you're welcome to go and visit the website to keep updated. So I want to talk about the methodology a little bit. I have been kind of hinting at the stories as being part of my work, and because I really see that it is through our stories that we can learn how to love, care, and support each other and our bodies in radical ways. And so to round my work in this collective work of the queer and trans community color, my research moving through the Cis-tem project aims to create space for people to share their stories, to unearth what care looks like for those whose identities are at multiple marginalized intersections, and to investigate what it means to honor and respect people's bodies beyond the confinement of the westernized medical complex. I've fell in love with the book by Leah Lakshmi, Care Work. It's the philosophy of the collective care with combination with Sonia Renee Taylor's invitation to the practice of radical self-love. That's when I find the work that I do really resonated within those books, and it's not really from the academic spaces usually. So I just wanted to give that shout out. And yeah, although like this practice, I acknowledge that it's not considered a typical scientific discourse. It should be noted that my research is much more grounded in the relationality and the community building, rather than the conventional scripts of research studies in social sciences. And for my research design, I have mapped this out to start with the interviews. The virtual interviews were to start having like one-on-one conversations with my participants, getting their stories and experiences, kind of having space for them to reflect on their own stories as well. And that was audio recorded and then transcribed. So that's what the data that I coded and used in my paper. But for my digital story side of my project, I had to do a virtual workshop with my participants and got them to do some free writing and have some writing prompts for people to start pulling up some of the stories that may come out, but also with the intention of like allowing them the space to tell whatever stories that come out. I wasn't, when I was facilitating this workshop, I intentionally mentioned that I don't want, like, I didn't have any clear expectations as to what the stories might be created or shared through the study. The intention was simply just to make space for them to tell their stories. And after that, I worked with some of the participants to create their stories, which I will be showing you today. But we also had our own screening with all the stories that came out and engaged in a focus group. And that was a really meaningful process. Again, didn't really get to talk about that in my paper, but it was a very important part of my work. So here's the project timeline, just over the past, I guess, 4 years. 2018, when I started, I was with a different advisor, was trying to find, was trying to make it work with a different research project and realized that I really couldn't see how to fit myself into that project. So thankfully, when Kim and I started to have a better ongoing relationship and we developed this project together, it was also at the same time that I started working with Transpulse Canada. So I'm just so grateful that with Kim's suggestion and guidance that we were able to combine my interest and my work from digital storytelling, which I thought was just like a hobby on the side, in order to, and like being able to create that and integrate that into my work for this master's has just been the most fulfilling project I could never have ever imagined. And I got to also work with the Revision Center folks and kind of see how they were developing or facilitating the workshops. So my research was meant to be very hands-on, in person, and right before my ethics application went in, the pandemic happened and had to revamp everything. Thankfully, we were able to keep most of the phases that we had in mind, just to do it virtually, which was its own challenge. And I also had my own gender affirming surgeries, 2 of them actually throughout since 2020 to last December. So this project is very much kind of parallel to my own experiences navigating the system. And here's an example of the writing prompts. This is the slide that I showed to my my participants, and just some of the different things that come out, and gave them about 10-15 minutes to do free writing and choose whichever one that resonated with them. And some of them turn out to be part of the stories that we ended up creating. And so for the data analysis, again, based on my interview questions, I came out with I identified 4 different themes. So one is navigating gendered identities, which kind of focuses on how gender is fluid and evolving. There's also a lot of discussions around social and physical dysphoria, highlighting like how different experiences are within people's and our bodies and our relationship to our own bodies. Theme 2 is the healthcare experiences, mainly focusing on the experience of accessing or seeking hormone replacement therapy and gender affirming surgeries. And the third theme is the barriers to care. So I identified 2 different levels. One is the systemic, which talks more about like the way that the system is very, there tends to be a long wait list, and because of the lack of funding and resources, and interpersonal levels are more of the challenges or misassumptions of that providers tend to have and tend to translate into their the care that they provide to their patients for those who don't fit within the binary of gender. And the last one is highlighting the inclusive and the affirming practices. I asked my participants, like, what were the things that helped make them feel safe and seen in those spaces? And a lot of the times it's really just like respecting people's names and pronouns, validating that they're, whatever it is that they're, like any of the issues that they raise, and also trusting that they have the ability to make informed decisions and the autonomy to trust their own bodies and know what they need. So I want to really show this one video that came out. There's 3 of them, but because I don't really have a lot of time to go through all 3, even though I really want to. This one really captures majority of like the themes that I have just covered. So this one is called Checkbox.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a musical theater nerd, I'm a parent, I'm a plant lover. I use he and they pronouns. I love my chosen family. I'm both mom and dad to my 11-year-old daughter. I'm an uncle to my nieces and nephews. I was the bridesman of honor at my best friend's wedding. I just really love a lot of the masculine and feminine aspects of myself, and I don't want to reject any of those things. I use he and they pronouns, but if you had asked me 7 years ago what my gender identity and gender expression were, I would have given you a very different answer.
So, I am a female to male transgender, 23 years old. I'm married with a 4-year-old kid, as you can probably guess by my fridge. And I'm pre-T and pre-surgery, but I'm really hoping to get started on my physical transition really soon. My intentions are to get chest surgery for sure, be on hormones for as long as medically possible, and I want a hysterectomy. I don't know about bottom surgery yet. I don't know, because I'm not really happy with any of the options that are out there right now. So, I don't know what's going on with my voice. I'm sorry.
Looking back, it was really obvious to me now that I really didn't want to make a lot of those physical changes that I was listing. You can tell just from the cracking of my voice, and my eyes were watering. I was just really struggling with saying all of those things because those weren't the things that I was wanting or needing at the time. I really just needed chest surgery, but I felt like I had to check off all of those boxes in order to get it. I actually remember the day that I got my letter from CAMH around approval for top surgery, and I recorded my reaction to it.
Also, I got my letter back from CAMH about surgery. Here, I've got that here. And let's see what it says. So, we have received a referral from your doctor for an assessment at the Gender Identity Clinic. In preparation for your appointment, please complete the enclosed questionnaire and return to us within 4 weeks so that we can so that your referral can be considered completed for placement on the wait list. They would also like me to include a written life story regarding your gender identity history and goals. If you are a new patient to the clinic, there is a wait list for your first appointment of approximately 16 to 20 months. So 1.5 to almost 2 years I would be waiting for just the first appointment, which is pretty discouraging.
With all of those wait lists and requirements, I felt like it was really, really important for me not to mess it up. I didn't want to make my wait any longer. So as I was accessing all of these supports and filling out all of these intake assessments, I really started to internalize the role that I felt I needed to play in order to get those needs met.
Hopefully by 2020, this whole process will be done. And then I won't be trans anymore. I'll just be a normal guy without this medical issue that I'm undergoing treatment for, which is the end goal.
I did finally get chest surgery in 2017, and it was amazing. It was one of the biggest reliefs of my life. And honestly, I can't even fathom the difference in terms of just the way I'm living now versus the way I was living before. I don't have to hurt myself by double and triple binding my chest every day just to exist outside of my home. I feel like I can look at my body without just wanting to scream. It was a huge, huge impact for me. I realized that I didn't actually want or need to make any other medical changes in my transition. I felt really comfortable in my transness, and not only that, I wanted other people to see and recognize me as a trans person. So that's when I started getting more involved in my community and even working in my local community here in Peterborough, Ontario. I finally met other trans folks, and I could see myself in the people around me, and I could see other trans people doing gender in their own way, which was amazing. I'm so glad and grateful that more people are getting to do that now, and so much faster than I was, because of the way our medical system is starting to catch up with us. It has a long way to go, but it's coming. As for me, I'm in a very different place with my gender identity and gender expression than I used to be. I'm really just content with being Rachel's parent. I still identify very strongly as her mom and her dad, and we always celebrate Mother's Day, which is really awesome. But in terms of everything else, I'm just seeing where things go and being okay with wherever it takes me. I guess that's it for now. Bye.
So yeah, that's one of the amazing stories that came out. I just want to quickly go over the knowledge mobilization, which is a big part of my research as well. I published the zine right after my top surgery, and in many ways, I feel like that was my master's thesis because I put a lot of my experiences and my resources into this to help people to be able to navigate this experience in particular, and have a easier way to like prepare for their surgery, and it has been I have it available online and an open access, but I also have it printed, and it's been used in many different places now. Like I'm still getting my friends telling me that their doctor referred me uh, to this scene. So it's really cool that it's out there, and it's exactly what the purpose that I wanted to do this work to begin with. But yeah, just some quick look at it. I have like the contents packing list, some exercises that I didn't get. I was just lucky that I had a friend who had the resources, and um, I really think that we all deserve to have the care that we need and shouldn't be dependent on luck, you know. So right now I am also working on a couple of community projects going back to creating more spaces in terms of the Nookums House. Is the work that my advisor Kim has been working since we met in 2018. And we're now working on a site trying to create a physical space to have Indigenous knowledge being shared and a community space being built at the Arboretum on for University of Guelph. And the next, another new project that I'm really passionate about is the erotic pedagogies that I'm working with my colleague. And it's an online project providing open access sexual education resources by and for queer and trans, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And it's also going to be open access as well. We have our Instagram page that you're welcome to follow if you'd like to learn more and hear more stories. Going out and filming people's telling their stories, like that's been really fulfilling and gives me so much life and joy, and helps me to get through writing this paper and to finish this degree. So it's, yeah, it all comes back to having a connection and being with my community. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for being a part of my journey.
Thank you so much, Skylar, for sharing your work with us. So now we're gonna go into questions, unless